apparently everyone had a good time.
Make sure your bike working now.
We got through the weekend with no incidents, at least none that I heard of. So it's just been actually a great time in Montgomery. A lot of fun, a lot of money being made. Yes. So in event, would you join me in prayer, please? Father God, we come before you this morning. First of all, say thank you for your grace and your mercy. We know that your name is the name that's above all names. And we know that at the name of Jesus, every knee must bow and every tongue must confess of things in the heavens, in the earth, and underneath the earth, that Jesus is Lord to the glory of God. So we thank you for that. We invite you in this morning to sit with us and observe the process, Lord God. And we just come against any spirit of deceitfulness, Lord God, or malice, and we ask that, Lord God, that you would bring forth truth and righteousness to this body. We ask it now in the blessed, sweet name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Our visitors today will be Sheriff Cunningham, Finance Director Cheryl Thomas, County Engineer George Speak, Risk Manager Melissa Peak, and Executive Director Thomas Raines for the Frank M. Johnson Institute will be with us. Items to be considered during the formal session. We will, the Finance Director will present the proposed 2022-2023 operating budget, construction funds budget, and the Emergency Management Communications District Board budgets. Consider an alcohol license application for a retail special event for a Latino festival. Consider a resolution to award a bid to Axon Enterprises for law enforcement body cameras, in-car cameras, and a digital management system. Consider addendum number 1 to a lease agreement with Faulkner University. Consider the Origami software subscription renewal agreement. Consider budget change request number 9 for the County Commission appropriations. Consider budget change request number 1 for the District Attorney's Office. Consider budget change request number 7 for the Sheriff's Office. Consider position fill request for the Appraisal Department for an Appraiser 1 and a Mapping Technician. Consider position fill request for the Detention Facility for 2 Corrections Officer trainees. Consider a position fill request for the Probate Judge's Office for a Customer Service Clerk. Consider a position fill request for the Sheriff's Office for a Deputy Sheriff trainee. Consider travel training requests for appraisal, the commission, community corrections, detention, engineering department, and the sheriff's office. Consider miscellaneous appropriations from designated revenue. Are there any changes there? Consider miscellaneous appropriations to education. Consider miscellaneous appropriations to agencies.
All right. Yes, I want to, my balance, I think it's $1,020 to Successful Living, elder care program.
Successful Living.
Yeah, I think that's the name of it.
Yeah, that's it. Success. Yeah, that's it.
Anything else? That's all. We will hear from Sheriff Cunningham. Oh, we will hear from Chief Murphy.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Sheriff Cunningham should be along shortly.
Sheriff Cunningham is requesting an irregular 2-step pay increase for an administrative support specialist from pay grade A05, step 3 to pay grade, no, that's not right. Pay grade A04, step 3 to pay grade A04, step 5.
Correct. It's Miss Brittany Howard. She was a grievance clerk in the jail. Very energetic, very hardworking. If you give her a task, she does it without fail. The sheriff is going to move her, or has moved her, to the juvenile detention facility. She's going to be the payroll clerk, and she'll be handling some purchasing. It is increasing her responsibilities.
This is item number 17. Is there any questions for,
So the pay
The
change,
chief.
she's changing jobs.
Yes,
She's not staying in the same job, wanting an irregular.
correct.
job.
She's changing jobs, yes, ma'am. She's going to be an administrative support specialist.
Is that a new position over there?
Sir?
Is that a new position?
No, sir. Ms. Barlow presently held the position, but she transferred to information systems
What was
during
it-
her
what was-
maternal leave.
What was the pay for the job?
It's an AO4.
And that's what I mean, what's gonna be the difference in the pay?
It's 2 steps.
Right now, the salary we're paying now and the salary that we're gonna pay, what's the difference?
So I'm not sure what Ms. Barlow is
$2,700.
making.
20, she'll be
$2,700.
making $2,700 more, the lady will
Than
be.
we're presently paying?
Well, she will be making what she's presently making, but I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah,
I'm trying to figure the
Figuring out what
impact
the
on the,
pay is now, I'm not, I
It's,
don't know.
I'm trying to figure the impact on the budget.
well, both are AO4s. The grievance clerk is an AO4, as is the administrative support specialist. The person who was there promoted to an administrative assistant. So she promoted out of the job. Both of the grievance clerk and the administrative support specialist are both AO4s. They're both the same pay. He's requesting a 2-step increase, which comes to, as you say, impacts salary about $2,500.
The employee that left the youth facility was probably at a step 1 or 2, which hasn't been there that long. Ms. Howard is presently at a 3 in her job, and so they're replacing when she goes to a 5.
So to answer your question. if
Yeah,
you-
I'm not objecting, but in the future, when you make this request, chief, can I give us an idea of the impact
Yes, sir.
that's gonna have on the current budget, you know?
Yes, sir.
I won't even have to ask that question.
If she's at the step 2, Commissioner Harris, at grade 04, she's at 33,652. That's what the position is, if she's at step 2.
Well, I'm perfectly satisfied to accept the sheriff's judgment on
Yes,
whether
sir.
or not the person needs it. I just wanted to know what it was gonna be. In
Yes,
other
sir.
words, what are we paying right now, and what are we gonna pay if we grant this?
Yes, sir, understood. And I expressed to Florence last week, the job market, as all the commissioners know, is increasingly more competitive, and we are having very much difficulty in finding people even for these positions. And as you recall, a few weeks ago, when we were trying to hire a cook in the juvenile facility, 2 of the most experienced applicants came to the table with a demand for pay. Something that, I mean, I told Florence this too, we haven't seen this before, at least I haven't. So applicants are coming to the workforce now and wanting to set their pay, which, again, if we don't match it or honor it, they move on to the next. That's happened quite a bit
We
here.
want you to be competitive, and I'm not questioning your judgment in
Yes, sir.
terms of whether or not this is what the job needs to
Absolutely.
be paid. But I'm always interested in what the impact is gonna be on the bottom line.
Yes, sir. Well, when I first started out, if I'd have made a demand for pay, I probably wouldn't be standing here right now.
And that's happening obviously everywhere, public and private sector.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I just wanted to add something. This is just me talking. It seems to me, and this has nothing to do with you, Chief, not directly. It seems if we had committees, if this body had committees like personnel, finance, et cetera, we could discuss these issues, before they came before this particular body, and we might not have all the questions that we tend to have just hearing things for the first time. So that's just a comment I want to make for the good of the body. If we had committees that would meet beforehand to address some of these issues. And a lot of county commissioners are doing the exact same thing. They have committees for every area or some of the more important areas. And then they resolve these things in committee, and when they get before the body for a vote, there's not a whole lot of questions or concerns. So just want to get that on for the record. Hopefully we can talk about that sometime in the near future, forming committees to address some of these issues in different departments.
Yes, sir.
Isaiah, I'm gonna let you have all my committee positions.
Thank you.
All right, next agenda.
Thank you.
Oh, shit, I'm sorry. One thing, and I wanted to ask the sheriff, Mr. Chairman. Okay, thank you. In regards to the camera system that we're getting, I know when we talked, we said we want to get some things in place that's going to have long-term impact on the health and wellness of the folks that we serve, safety, et cetera. Now, the software licensing and so forth, is that going to be an ongoing fee or cost for the licensing and the software associated with this camera system?
Yes, sir, eventually, not for 3 or 4 years, but as the system ages, there's obviously maintenance requirements. To answer your question?
Yes, sir. So nothing on the first, second, third year, nothing at all, no licensing fees, no software upgrades on an annual basis. I know a lot of our software in various departments require upgrades on an annual basis. So we're saying no added expense for at least a 4-year period of time.
At least.
Okay. And
But as with any technology, there's obvious maintenance that has to be conducted.
do we have any idea about how much that might cost? Because I know the discussion was when we do this through ARPA funding, we want to make sure that it's not a lot of recurring cost involved.
This proposal includes all of the maintenance over, I can't remember, I think it was really 5 years, but there were some issues about a 5-year contract, so I know it is covered in a 3-year agreement for 5 years or something along those lines. The understanding is, as Chief Murphy said, the technology will have changed and this equipment will probably need to be upgraded. There'll be something bigger and better by then. But this is a total cost associated with this equipment.
Okay.
That was one of the issues that was pushing the change, the car cameras. And Mr. Smith, Rodney Smith can tell you, the technology, the upgrades and maintenance had really outlived its lifespan. And so eventually we will, but as Florence said, this money does include the maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
Sir.
Finance Director Cheryl Thomas will address items 1 and 2, and at the beginning of the formal session, will present items 14, 15, and 16.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have 2 items. The first one on page 4 is the GASB 54. It's an annual. You have to approve it. It has no financial impact, says so, none. It's just classifying fund balances on the financial statement. It's required every year. So, a next agenda. And the other item is a budget change for, basically, the general fund has funded the renovations of the Perry Street parking lot. We spent a good bit of it last year. This 700 and something is to, we've been transferring the money over there for the project. This is just to go ahead and do the budget change to cover that. We waited until it was complete. The total cost of the renovations was about $2.4 million. We did the other part in '22. And so this one needed to come before you since it's coming out of fund balance. But a reminder, because it's year end, I'm going to have several more budget changes that will come straight to the agenda next time. There's no way for me to do them all now. I want to get a little closer to the end of the year. So I always like to remind you they'll be on there.
Any questions?
Yes. Are you done?
Yes.
Mr. Are we expected to vote on the budget today?
No.
But it was,
Next week.
We actually, I'll present just the summary. You have the summary in your packet. In the formal session, it'll go to the next agenda on the 20th for a vote.
I know you see it on the formal session.
yes.
Okay, but it's not a vote.
Well, very good, because I was concerned about that. I know we do these things when we have our budget hearings and we cut, we add, we do that. But of course, you know, the final draft is what really is really
Right.
important. So I had a few questions about that.
Okay,
So we're not voting on that today. I just want to be sure. So if you don't mind, I'll talk with you after.
or you can, can ask me questions when I present it, or
When-
now.
Well, no, I was just concerned about a couple of items. I know that was $75,000 under other nonprofit. Who is that for?
That was, we had a couple of items in the budget that we left in the budget as reserves. It's really like an in-house appropriation.
Oh.
Yeah, we don't have to use it. but-
You don't have to use it, but it's a,
Okay.
okay.
Well, I want more cookies. I'm sorry.
What'd you say?
I apologize. Yeah, thank you so much for
But
that.
I can go over that with you.
And in terms of, I know that the Chamber of Commerce gets an appropriation from lodging tax, and then they have a line item for about $250,000.
Right.
I did not see that.
I think those are lumped into, there's a general category, everything's not lined item, I don't have it up here with me,
Yeah.
but they're in there. There's a general government category.
Can we pull that out again? Because the years that I've been here, you know, it was for transparency, if nothing else, it was actually, you know, kind of standalone.
Okay.
So I'd like to see that.
I'll look at it. I don't think I've done it any different, but I can.
Yes, ma'am.
It's there.
Sure, lodging tax, the chamber, they don't receive any lodging tax from us, do they, for the county?
They get
a portion.
they get 21% of what we collect.
21% of what everybody collects, is that the 21% of the whole lodging?
All right, our budget for lodging tax next year is about 2.6 million. They're 21%. I think it's at 546,000.
They're capped at what?
No, we don't have a cap. We used to have a cap years ago. We did away with the cap. We might have given them a little bit higher percentage, but what we did, even at their request, is we dropped the percentage to 21%, but lifted the cap. There's no cap. When we first started it, there was a cap of about 420,000 a
Yeah,
year, I believe. And, but it's 21% of it. And I think the city does something similar.
I know I was here for that vote, but that didn't. It was
It's
like,
been a while that we didn't have the cap.
yeah, I was here for that vote, I think.
I think that was probably in
I was here for it.
2015 or 2016.
Maybe before you guys.
Before we got
Yeah, I was in the audience when it happened.
Oh,
Yes.
So last year was 500.
I think the budget's, like I said, 546,000. I'm trying to remember.
So we collect $2.25 per room, and they get 21% of that, $2.25, okay.
Yeah, each month when we collect it, Tax and Audit collects it, gives me the number, and we take strictly 21% and pay it to the chamber.
You said it comes out about $500,000.
It's over 500. And like this year, it's going to go over budget because we base the budget on the estimated actual collections, and lodging tax is a little above. I mean, the revenue is offsetting the additional.
That's a good thing.
Yes, because we budget very conservatively.
But there's another line item in there for the Chamber of Commerce too, right?
Yes,
For $250,000?
there is a fixed amount, 250,000.
Okay.
I'd just like to see that, if you don't mind,
I can split
separated,
it
you know,
out.
just,
It's actually the budget itself is actually, will be very detailed. We just only present a summary, but I can split that out.
thank you,
I will. I can do that by the next meeting.
thank you.
Thank you. Next agenda on that one.
George will speak to items number 3 and 4.
Okay, this future agenda item number 3, that's a contract with Goodwin Mills and Kaywood for construction, engineering, inspection services on the Bong Road, Ryan Road intersection improvement project. And the contract amounts $56,300. And it's MPO funding, so it's 80/20, and the county's match is about 11,000. And recommend approval.
So around the road, is that all county, some city of Montgomery, is it all county? Or is that our road?
Most of it's the city, and we've got the part basically from about where Dick Brubaker lives.
So right there, that corner is
so-
county, you know?
There's a sign up there that says city limits.
Yep, exactly. Next agenda.
So everything that the count, that Department of Transportation is not covering, we might be responsible for it if there are cost overruns. When I read that, they said they have a certain limitation and they're not going beyond that. So if there's additional costs, we got to eat those.
There's possibility, now there is a possibility you can go back and, if you have something unexpected, you can go back and renegotiate with the state, and they may pay some and may not, you know. We don't think it'll overrun that
Okay.
amount.
Thank you.
Next agenda.
Let's see, agenda item, well, it's a future agenda item, number 4.
Washington Road.
Yes, sir. That's the funding agreement for resurfacing Washington Road, Lamar Road, and the total project's 1.396 million, and it's 80% MPO funds, 1.117 million. And the county's part is, the county's match is 279,000. But part of, the city put some of their MPO funds, and we put some of ours in because part of Lamar is in the city and part of it's in the county. So the city is gonna reimburse us the match on their part, which their match is somewhere around 184,000 roughly. So the county would end up match would be 94,000. We've got that budgeted.
Yeah, you and Kevin, I want to talk to y'all later on about Washington Road. So,
Okay. So, next agenda on that one?
yes, sir.
Okay. That's all we got.
Risk Manager Melissa Peak will discuss item number 5.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I present to you today an amendment that has been presented to me by NavCare, which is the provider of inmate medical services. As you're aware, we've been working very closely with NavCare to change things for the better in the detention facility when it comes to inmate healthcare services. I'm pleased to report that it does appear as though we will be receiving the accreditation from the National Commission for Inmate Healthcare. We expect to get that final documentation and presentation of a plaque within the next 60 days. And the president of NavCare and others from the detention facility and the Sheriff's Department would like to want to present that here with you, with the rest of the commissioners, and celebrate in that high achievement. It is not an easy task to gain national accreditation. They have some very rigid expectations. So that's something to look forward to.
Melissa,
Yes.
excuse me. How long was that governing body, that the people who have the authority to issue that accreditation, how long were they here?
They were here for 4 days.
Okay. Did talking to the inmates, was that part of their assessment?
Yes, it was. They spoke with the inmates. They interviewed the detention employees. They interviewed the NavCare nursing staff. They did a full review of the detention facility in those 4 days that they were here.
Thank you.
There's 10% increases in the budget for next year already.
Yes, this was something that was brought to my attention back in June. Basically, NavCare has had to go to all of their facilities across the U.S. They are experiencing issues with supply chains and increases with inflation due to the current economic climate. But yes, this was factored into next year's budget. Jefferson County and Mobile County have presented their increases to their commission, similarly to what I'm having to do now. But something that was determined within the past year is that we really need more of mental health providers within the detention facility. That is the most prominent issue within the detention facility when they're treating those inmates. So they have requested that we increase the hours of the psychiatric nurse practitioner to full-time, and then the 10% cost of living increase that we discussed.
Any
Now,
questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
my question is maybe for Cheryl or the chief. Do we get reimbursed from either the state or the feds for those inmates that we have on board from them for medical care, psychiatric care? Is there, I know that was, in the ACCA, we were talking about getting legislation through that would help us in that regard. Do we get anything?
I think after they're sentenced, there is some formula for some reimbursement.
once the judge signs the transcript for them to be, once they are sentenced and the judge signs the transcript, every day that they are still within our custody, we can charge the state.
For the medicals?
Correct.
How about the dips and the dunks?
I'm sorry?
How about the dips and the dunks? These are individuals who violated their parole and they're dipped in the county jail for 45 days or dumped for more.
No, it has to, if I remember correctly, it has to be, they have to have a sentence to
Well,
the.
they've been sentenced, all right. They've been sentenced, paroled, and violated. And rather than send them back to the penitentiary, they put them in the county jail for 45 days. And then they put them back on the street.
I'm not familiar with any of those cases.
I'm gonna check,
I don't think they are, but we'll see what.
Yeah, the ACCA was, there was supposed to be some legislation dealing with that type of situation.
Okay,
Uh,
that's
They
news to
get to-
me,
they
so
get
I'll
to-
certainly
they
look
get-
at that.
In other words, these are individuals that should go back to prison
Right.
instead
The
of going
chief
back to
can
prison.
answer the question about,
Commissioner, we do receive a fee from the state for DOC inmate, but there's no addendum to that for medical care. That one fee covers everything, food, medical, so there's nothing specific to, if they're under any kind of treatment, they don't get an addendum to that standard fee.
We need to check with Sonny and see where that is, Florence. I know we were working on something to
Yeah.
get paid for that.
I have talked with NavCare about helping us find other ways to save money, for which one of the options, which we are actively exploring, is gaining a 340B status in the detention facility, which is essentially a pharmacy status, so that we can receive certain drugs, particularly HIV drugs, at a 30% discount.
Any other questions?
Just one last
Yes, sir.
question, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay.
Sure.
Well, listen, I was just wondering, when they asked for that 10% cost of living, what was that?
Inflation.
Inflation, was anybody there who was there when they asked for that cost of living or that inflation adjustment? Who was there to say yes, no, maybe so?
Well, we have not said yes or no. We have said we have to present it to the commission. But we did have a meeting, the detention, Chief Murphy, Sheriff Cunningham, the leadership at the detention facility, as well as Florence and Kendall and I were part of this discussion.
Okay.
And just to tell you, the only reason why they're asking for this is because with our detention facility, they are operating at 11% loss. So their profit margin is very, very narrow.
Oh, really?
Yes.
$3 million?
Yes, sir.
And they operating at a,
Well, and just as Chief Murphy explained, you know, it also comes down to what we're having to pay nurses to come work at the facility,
okay.
just like the other facilities here.
I'd like to have a meeting with you.
Sure,
Thank-
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome. Any other questions?
The next agenda.
All right, thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Thomas Raines with the Judge Frank M. Johnson Institute.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I'd like to pass these out to you, if you don't mind.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak and to update you on the progress we've made at the Judge Frank Johnson Institute. We are a nonpartisan voice that shares the stories of our Constitution and our judiciary through programs that illuminate issues and perspectives, foster thoughtful and civil discourse, and inspire our national community and our nation's never-ending pursuit of a more perfect union. Those of you who were on the County Commission in 2019 will remember that I spoke to you then when we were a new organization. We began operations that year after being founded by admirers of Judge Johnson to honor his legacy and promote understanding of the U.S. Constitution. At that time, under the leadership of Chairman Dean, you all graciously saw the need to support the Institute and helped us get off the ground with financial support. And I am pleased to report that since then, despite the pandemic, we have grown and developed our programming. Our work generally falls into three categories. We host visitors and events at the Frank Johnson Courthouse here in downtown Montgomery, which is a few blocks from here and is a National Historic Landmark. That was where Browder versus Gale was filed in 1956 and other court cases throughout history that have helped to change the course of the country. That courthouse is a site on the U.S. Civil Rights Trail, and we get regular requests for tours from as far away as Australia. And since 2019, we have hosted or helped facilitate visits for over 1,400 people. And that includes school groups from here in Montgomery, tourists from all over the world, and people attending special events like the Faith and Politics group that comes through in the springtime. Second, when we are not working on hosting tours or events, we are working on civics education initiatives. Last summer, we kicked off our Johnson Institute Scholars Program for teachers and had multi-day conferences for middle and high school teachers who came to Montgomery for those events. We had a significant number of teachers from Montgomery Public Schools, including from Carver and Lee and Lamp and BTW, as well as others. We also had a fair number of visiting teachers come in to Montgomery from other places around the state and from out of state. We had several teachers from Maryland and Ohio come and visit and stay in hotels here. And during the conference, the teachers learned about historic court cases that took place here in Montgomery, and they had the opportunity to interact with judges and attorneys and learn about the Constitution. We have gotten great reviews from that programming and plan to continue that next summer as well. Additionally, we have also held a number of online events. A lot of that was due to the pandemic and having to change course after that started, like so much of the world did. But we were pleased in 2021 to be awarded an award from the American Bar Association for an Outstanding Activity Award with a panel discussion we did online focused on due process. And then finally, as the Judge Johnson Institute, we do feel a sense of responsibility around his legacy, and we are in the process of capturing stories of people who knew Judge Johnson or were affected by his rulings as part of our oral history project. We kicked it off last year, and we are in the process of capturing as many stories as we can over the next several years. And those interviews will be available to researchers and educators and others, and we will use them for additional programming down the line. As we look ahead, we have big plans to continue expanding and developing our work. Our Scholars Program for teachers, as I mentioned, will continue, and we also plan to expand that into other professions. We're working on something for law enforcement right now. We're in the process of launching an oral history online portal for our oral history project. And then we also plan to host new events over the next few months. Next month, we will welcome Leadership Alabama to Montgomery when they come here to kick off their new class. And we are bringing scores of students on field trips from teachers who have been a part of our programming, some from here in Montgomery as well as some from as far away so far as Mobile. And we expect to do more of those in the future. We are very excited for what lies ahead and appreciate your support. And I'm happy to answer any questions you've got. Yes, sir.
Tommy Gallion called me 221-8507. I was appointed by Judge Johnson along with, prior to becoming Circuit Judge Randy Thomas, to clean up Bryce Institute. It was quite a story. I'd be glad to share it with you if it's.
Yes, sir.
He cleaned up Alabama's mental facility, and it was something that you wouldn't, one flew over the cuckoo's nest was mild compared to this.
Yes, sir. I would love to follow up with you about that.
Tommy Gallion, okay.
Thomas, I want to thank you for the work that you've done. Montgomery is a city of many, many treasures, and the Frank Johnson Institute is definitely one of them. It's an attraction for our city, so it's good for economic development. But more than that, there's a history up there that should never be forgotten, and everybody should be aware of. Thank you for furthering that history and making more people aware that this exists. Browder v. Gale was really, they like to talk about, she sat down, so she stood so we could sit. Well, that was a bus boycott case that got it all started. So there's a lot of history, and thank you for nurturing and growing that treasure.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that. And I remember talking with you about the Selma March and how Judge Johnson had authorized that through the case in his courtroom in 1965.
Yes, we waited. I was there waiting for that ruling, and that's when we got the okay. I don't talk about it that much, but I was there on Turnaround Tuesday when Martin Luther King actually led that march to the top of the bridge, and we waited there for what seemed like all day. And Dr. King decided that day that he would not march that day because the court ruling was pending, and we would wait on that. Well, John Lewis and SNCC couldn't wait, and that brought us Bloody Sunday. If you recall, Martin Luther King wasn't there that day because that was not a Martin Luther King march. That was SNCC-led, mainly the young people, and it led to Bloody Sunday. And then the court ruled, and the National Guards were ordered in, and then that's the one that I participated in. We left there. That's coming to Montgomery, and I remember spending the night on St. Jude campus and waking up that next morning and coming down Dexter Avenue. It was a great feeling, and all that is captured in pictures and case law and everything up at the courthouse. If you haven't been there, you need to go. That courtroom is preserved about like it was back in the day, so you get a chance to go ahead and of course you got to go through security and all that, but it's worth it.
Yes, sir. And that invitation is extended to all of you. Please come visit the courthouse.
We made a commitment to you financially a couple of years ago, correct?
Correct.
And I think we did not, the second part of that commitment is still pending, where
It has been it's taken care of.
it's taken care of, okay? Everything's good. Okay.
Correct. Yes, sir.
We
Thank you for
fulfilled that initial commitment.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think this might be an appropriate time to consider items number 9 and 18. Mr. Gallion's contract expires the end of this month, and you have before you an amendment or an agreement to extend that contract through the end of the year under the same terms and conditions, and an agreement for him to remain as counsel for an additional 3 months to assist in the transition to a staff in-house attorney.
Yes, the staff in-house attorney will be available January the 1st, correct?
Early January, yes.
So we've asked Mr. Gallion to remain on for the first 3 months of our next budget year, and then remain 3 months into the 2023 on retainer. So, any questions about that, those two items?
Mr. Chairman, I will do anything that I can to make the in-house attorney comfortable. I've been representing the county since 1986, and so it's a major part of my family, and I would certainly do any and everything I can to make this a smooth transition as far as in-house attorney, and I will continue to help him in any way possible. I do have a great deal of knowledge that I absorbed, I guess, through osmosis since 1986, but it's been a major part of my life to work with Montgomery County. It's my home county, and I still think we have great things ahead, but you can rest assured that I will do everything I can to assist.
We know you will. Thank you, Tommy. Any other questions on those two items?
Next agenda.
So that will be next agenda for item number 9 and 18, which is a salary adjustment for the incoming attorney.
Yes, ma'am. Next agenda.
Thank you. The probate judge has stepped out. He had asked for the opportunity to introduce the interim elections director. Items number 6 and 7 are resolutions to obligate the expenditure of ARPA funds. Item number 6 regarding the CARISTAR Crisis Diversion Center. Item number 7 is regarding the improvements to the recreational facilities for the YMCA.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
on the one regarding CARISTAR, I know that they're in the process of building the facility. I'm sure they're just a short time away before they occupy the new facility. But part of the ARPA funding from the federal requirement talks about diversity and inclusion, particular for minorities. So I'm wondering if any of that was discussed with CARISTAR as it relates to construction of that facility and any of the other services that might be necessary to bring that to completion.
I've had numerous conversations with Terry Reynolds about that, and she assured me that there have been very in-depth conversations with Donna Leslie on these topics.
But since they've already made decision about the contractor, the architect, I suppose most of the decisions, all of the decisions I would suspect have been made in terms of spending. So what in particular did we do to assure minority participation to meet the federal requirements?
I'll be honest, I can't answer that question with specifics.
Okay. Because we really got to be serious about that part of it when the federal dollars are being spent. I think President Biden has made it clear in one of his executive orders that diversity and inclusion is going to be an important part of what we need to be doing and the value system that we need to hold when it comes to spending that ARPA money.
Well, this ARPA money did not go to capital improvements for that facility. So I thought it went to programs for the new facility,
Went to both.
because they broke ground, they've already
It went to both.
went to vote.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the resolution, part of these funds are to complete the construction of the CARISTAR Crisis Diversion Center and potential program funding that is not used to complete construction.
Okay, well, I stand corrected on the capital part of it then. I knew the programs were there, so.
I'm just hoping it impacts that mental health population up at the jail.
And on the streets too, yeah.
I mean, a lot of people that are up there don't need to be up there. They need to be somewhere getting treated.
It's true. Exactly right.
So are they going into the jail too? I thought we had just Thought that was.
No, they're getting them before they go to jail. They're
Decrease
gonna
the
triage them.
population of the jail.
The way I think it's gonna work, they're gonna be triaged before
Right.
they get
Okay.
locked up, and if they qualify, they'll go to CareStar,
Yeah.
and otherwise they'll get locked up.
Right now, they're going to the jail.
Right.
They go to the
All of
hospital, yeah, everybody, so.
Yeah, but I thought Donna said that they were actually open in the temporary facility where,
Yes.
They are operating in temporary facilities on Carmichael now as they complete construction.
so someone that had a mental health issue and the sheriff had picked up can be taken directly to the facility. Okay.
And I think most of the deputies been trained already in that triage, right? So they're doing that. They've been doing that for a while. But we didn't have nowhere to take them.
Yeah, the mental health portion, I mean, nobody's arguing about that piece for sure. We definitely need that, but we also want to make sure that we're following the spirit of the law when it comes to services that are being contracted. And now that next one, Madam Chair,
Okay, well,
Mr. Chair.
Let's do, item number 6, the CareStar, next agenda on that one. And now we can discuss number 7. Any questions on 7?
Well, no, not necessarily, but I'm concerned about that. It seems that I don't know, the executive director came to one of the meetings and somehow he got on the agenda, and now we're pushing remodeling or enhancing of the soccer fields out at AUM. We hadn't spent any money that I'm aware of in the predominantly black communities, in low-income communities, and primarily the ARPA funding was to address some of the disparities that existed prior to the pandemic, and that was exacerbated by the pandemic. So now we've kind of kicking the can down the road on water and sewer, housing, rehabilitation, construction of affordable housing, and some other things that need to be addressed, community centers, particularly in the low-income communities of color. So I'm just trying to figure out, and we hadn't spent anything in the so-called qualified census tracts. So I'm just trying to figure out how did this particular resolution get ahead of all those other critical things that need to be done, particularly in communities of color and low-income community.
Well, this was one that was recommended at our last joint meeting to move forward with.
Well, I certainly didn't agree with it. So in any event, that's something that we need to talk about, because I'm just concerned that even our consultants, I'm concerned that they're becoming more lobbyists as opposed to consultants, and being unduly influenced by pushing these things on the agenda. So we really got to do something about that before all the money is spent.
Any other questions about number
And
7?
I'm hoping to have something on the agenda about water and sewer, hopefully at the next meeting.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
So next agenda on that.
For items 6 and 7.
Yes, ma'am. Probate judge, JC, you want to make a quick introduction?
Yes, just wanted to make a quick introduction. Good morning, Chairman Singleton, Vice Chairman Sankey, Commissioners Walker, Commissioner Moore Ziegler, and Commissioner Harris. As you all are aware, that our former election director, Darrell Parker, passed away on July of this year. And so in an interim capacity, we brought in Ms. Alexandra Stevens. I introduced you all to her earlier this morning, but she comes to us having been elections director for Richland County, South Carolina, and that's where Columbia, South Carolina is, with a county of about a population about 615,000. You can come on down. She had previously served as election coordinator for Jefferson County here in Alabama. She is originally from Alabama, graduate of AUM University, as well as holds 2 masters from Troy State as well as from AUM. And so she's someone with talking with fellow probate judges and other election officials throughout the state who is well known and highly respected. And she'll tell you that even when she was in college, she interned over at the election center. So we're looking forward to her getting us through this election cycle for, in an interim capacity. The time period is up to 90 days, so we hope to begin the process of trying to hire another election director soon and get someone in place, but we're happy to have her with us. She just started on last Thursday, so I'll bring her up here.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to say I'm happy to be here to help you all get through this upcoming election. I know elections can get pretty intense, but we will do our best, myself and my staff, to make sure that we get through this election successfully. You know, as Judge Love was saying, it's a full circle for me. I interned at the Montgomery County Election Center as an undergrad when I was attending AUM. I graduated from there in '09 with a bachelor's in political science, and then went back and obtained my master's in public administration from Auburn University in Montgomery as well. So I am happy to be here. Thank you all for allowing me this opportunity. And if there's anything that you all ever need, just reach out to me and let me know.
Thank you. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Next item for consideration is item number 8 for grant agreement with Montgomery County Youth Facility Courts and Alabama Department of Youth Services for the juvenile courts. If you have any questions,
Is there any match on that or anything? I didn't see a match or anything. Okay. All right, next agenda. Did you want to say something? Well, there's no match, it's the rent for like the first program. Okay. That's what I read, I just didn't see.
That's how much is that grant?
$490,000.
Yeah, that's the,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just didn't see it in there, so I figured it wasn't in there. so-
Yes. All right. Anything else?
Good.
item number 10 is consider an alcohol license application for a Latino festival on October 16th, 2022.
Next agenda.
Item number 11 includes a series of agreements with Alabama Power Company to upgrade leased lighting fixtures at various locations.
Next agenda.
what is this though? I don't think I've ever,
LED lighting.
but I've never seen this
That's
though.
Well, it's, we have these agreements about these streetlights, and this is upgrading them.
In the city.
We don't have, well, we don't have any street lights in the county.
Yeah, what,
On Pike Road.
this one is Air Base Boulevard.
So these are the lights that are at county facilities that, you know, we
Ah.
maintain. So I think one of Air Base, that would be the youth detention facility.
Yeah,
So we sat down a couple of weeks ago with Alabama Power and went over lighting, how much are we paying, where are some ways we can maybe either, increase longevity in the lights that we have, or maybe reduce the price. And this is one of the things that came out of that.
are we gonna save money?
Over the long run, because we don't have to replace as many lights, yes, sir.
Alabama Power's doing this everywhere in all municipalities.
Just, you know, I thought it strange. I saw the local addresses and I've never seen it before, so. Kinda wondering why we're paying for the lights in the city.
Next agenda.
Item number 12 is a bid award to Amwaste to provide residential solid waste collection and disposal.
Yeah, the low bid was awarded, and they're actually the current vendor now. They've done a really good job for it, so it's good news to see that. Yes, sir.
And is that cost going to be incurred by the residents of the? And I guess they have to be okay with it, huh?
They have no option really outside of, and fortunately, it was not that big an increase as I was concerned it was gonna be a lot higher.
Cost increases always find their way to the consumer.
Yes.
It's about $3 a quarter, I think now, or $6 a quarter, but they already had a price index, so it's not a,
Hourly pay
Yeah.
increases find their way to the consumer. Federal debt finds its way to the consumer. Everything finds its way. It all funnels down, right, to us.
Oh, yeah.
and still on a statewide level, Montgomery County is very, very low on the cost for that, so I've been pleased with that. So that would be next agenda.
Item number 13 is a bid award to Outdoor Obsessions for grounds maintenance at county parks.
That's the one that I had questions
You see down the bid?
on. I mean, it's, something's wrong here. Didn't have a copy of the bid, so I don't know what they were bidding on. But anytime you can get a low bid on an item of $3,800. And the next bid to that is $14,500? They couldn't have been looking at the same thing. I mean, just think about it. These people are gonna do a job for, what's that, 60-something? $6,600, $66,000, that the other company would have to have $292,000? They couldn't have been looking at the same thing.
Not everybody knows how to write an estimate. I don't mean that flippantly, but I've seen this before.
But I have to, I gotta see
And
it.
some people jack up their estimate in hopes of being the only ones
But
to.
this is not, this
put it in
is
there.
criminal.
Yeah, and
This is not jacking it up, this is criminal. If somebody can do something for 66,000, and I'm gonna charge you 292,000 for it, and we're looking at the same thing, you're not just trying to skim a little bit, you're trying to rob.
and the
So,
second,
I mean, I'm just interested, I'd like to see the bid, and see what is it different that we're gonna have done for 292 that the people for 66 are gonna do. There's just too much of a discrepancy here for us to just say, whoo, and laugh at it. There's something happening here.
it's some, it's basically cutting the grass at the 10 parks, and, the second company is, I don't know if they've ever bid before on this particular item.
Well, we need to know
recall
that. We need to know what,
Bid number 2 has never bid for this service before.
Yeah,
And
What-
that's why.
what I'm getting at is, if they can't justify it, then they don't need to be bidding ever again on anything.
Excuse me, Mr. Commissioner, that's against the law.
What's against
Yeah.
the law? It's against the law to,
To not allow them to bid. They could bid, we
Alabama
just,
bid law, and this has happened over the years. I've seen companies that actually did not want the contract that have bid it too highly. You can't tell.
okay,
You
that,
can't tell somebody. that
I'll,
can't
I'll
bid.
accept that. Let me see what they're bidding on. Whenever we get these things before us, I want to see what the bid looked like that went out. What was the RFP, or whatever you send out? What were the particulars of that bid? Because it's just hard for me to understand. Anybody, even somebody that didn't want it, all it had to do was double it. This is not doubling. You know? It's not even tripling. I mean, this is 66,000 versus 292,000. I don't know how many times 66 goes into 292, but it's more than 3.
actually, it's only 53,000,
Well, 53, oh. 53.
but we had 40.
Something's wrong. I might be wrong, but, you know, if they saw the same thing, how can that happen?
We emailed 43 bids and got 2, and then one person bid on one particular part.
Well, I don't think we ought to go next agenda till I get to see what they both saw. We can put it off until the next time, but
And we've
I
actually,
don't have a problem with the low bid getting it.
They
I mean-
all, I mean, we'll get you the bid, but the same document is emailed to all the bidders. I don't know if this particular bidder asked any questions. I do know that this particular company, as Kendall said, has never bid on something like this. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this company is used to doing more residential work, not,
But people have to, you know, if you just let something like this go by and you treat it as routine, then you'll never, if there's something going on that shouldn't be going on, you'll never discover it. If there ever was a red flag, if say something is going on here and it comes up lately, how are we going to explain away that we didn't think anything was different about this? I'm looking at it, I'm saying something's wrong. Maybe wrong, maybe nothing's wrong, but I want to make sure that we're all right. You know, I want to make sure that the people that bid at 292 saw the same thing that the people that bid at 53. And what they're proposing to do, what was their response to the bid in terms of what they would do? I'd like to see that.
well, Commissioner, can we put it on the next agenda and then table it at the next meeting? Because this contract starts October the 1st?
Not 100% sure to start that, but we'll get you that information. I can have that information by later today.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to see it. I'm just not Now, even if I didn't want to bid, I just wouldn't throw that out there. You know,
Commissioner, you okay with us putting it on the agenda and then tabling the next meeting if we're not ready to vote on it? Is that okay with you? Just put on the next agenda and then table it at the meeting if it's, you still have questions about it, haven't been answered yet? You okay with that?
yeah, yeah, I'm okay with
Okay,
that.
let's do that then.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
may I go back to the previous item, please?
Yeah,
Just
sure.
one for clarification. Amwaste, they have minority bidder checked here. Are they a minority?
Am Waste,
Yes, sir.
I am not sure who is the owner of Am Waste.
The low bid.
I've never met the owner of Am Waste. Our representative, he's very responsive to calls, the few calls we've had, he's been very, very responsive, same day.
Excuse me, I think that X is the wrong side. They are not minority.
They're not minorities.
Just
So,
wanted
yeah,
clarification
so
on
we'd
it.
be on the other side, I noticed that too, it'd be on the other
The-
side of no. So what they do, you put yes, X, no,
Right,
so they are not a minority.
okay. I just noticed the other exits, they appeared on the right, apparently on the appropriate side. Okay.
Wait a minute now. One says yes and one says no. So in other words, you're saying the no actually mean yes and the yes actually mean no?
Like on the, I'm looking at the one for the number 13, the outdoor, the grounds.
Outdoor grounds.
Grounds, outdoor sessions, it says minority bidder has a no and then X.
Okay,
And then bid number 2 has minority bidder, it has the X before, after the yes and before the no, so I would
Right.
assume. Then the third one on there has minority bidder, yes, blank, no,
No.
X. So it is confusing a little bit.
not to me. One is yes,
And then the next one is no.
one is no, one is yes, and one is no.
You're exactly right.
You're-
That's exactly how I read it. So, but you're talking about the other one, right?
And
On
it
Amwaste?
is confusing too.
He's talking about the Amwaste one.
Oh,
Yeah, so the Amwaste one, minority bidder, it says blank, yes, X, no. So I assume that one means,
So Amwaste is not a minority bidder.
I was assuming that means. Yeah,
Okay, and I know we have that for a reason,
yeah,
so I want to be sure that we don't just, just check stuff just for the sake of checking it. I'm sure it probably was
yeah,
that's about
a
the point.
justifiable
My
oversight.
point, if that's confusing to,
yeah, it is.
if it's confusing to the commission, you
We
think
need to
it
make
might be,
sure- we
you
need to
think
make
there
sure-
might be some confusion going on with the people making these bids?
Yeah, we need to make them sure.
I
that-
don't know,
Let's make sure these are consistent.
I just think we
in the
ought to look
future
at it.
On where the X's go, so. Alphonse, you got one or two more, right? Real quick.
I think we've covered those. 14, 15, and 16 will be at the beginning of the formal session. We have covered 17 and 18.
Okay. Okay, then we're going to take a quick strict 3-minute recess, and we'll be right back for the formal session. So 3 minutes.